All right. Well, thank you and welcome again. My name is Josh Vanek and I work for Montana Campus Compact. And we're just going to spend about a half an hour kind of doing a quick overview of the campuses that make up this organization, kind of what their purpose for Campus Compact was when they started out, and what we do. So I work out of Missoula. We're hosted by the University of Montana, but Campus Compact is very much a network of higher ed institutions in Montana. And so there are 17 of them around the state, from Fort Peck Community College in the northeast all the way to Western in the southwest, and Flathead Valley Community College in the northwest. These campuses get together and say, we want to be part of this compact that says higher education has a real importance for the public good, and we want to kind of work collectively so that we kind of can amplify that message and put our heads together about how we do that public good work better. So we have a network office that, as I said, is hosted by the University of Montana in Missoula. And additionally, the University of Montana is an affiliate campus of Campus Compact. So that's a lot of information to digest all at once. At any point, just please holler at me if you've got questions or if you have something to add. You don't have to wait for me to pause. Just start. Go ahead and ask away. So I'll keep heading along here. The mission of Campus Compact is that we advance the public purposes of colleges and universities by deepening their ability to improve community life and to educate students for civic and social responsibility. So clearly, what colleges and universities do is improve community life. They train our teachers, our business people, our social workers, our construction workers, you name it. Because of higher education, we have people who have skills and knowledge and care about where they live, and are able to really interact positively and skillfully with the places where they live. So our office promotes service learning in a way of connecting kind of student learning to community needs. And we look for ways to really encourage students to dive into communities so that they learn kind of these values that we all kind of talk about, like what it means to be a good citizen, a person who takes a strong interest and cares and helps and supports that place where they live. So that's what our mission is. Pause here. What are your thoughts on all of that?
It is, I feel it's just we're the trunk and that's a branch. So it ties in nicely to what the vision of an education will do for an individual. So I'm on board with that.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think you run TRIO programs and kind of help remove barriers for first income and low income students to reach college. I think it's hand in glove with this idea that higher education has this great potential to help people have a better life than their parents or maybe their families before them. So we love very much
that as well. And you know, in our community, I'm very supportive of our cultural activities, awareness, and language, for that identity, for that, the strength of the person to go out and serve, our tribal members, coupled with education, is pretty powerful.
Absolutely. And then Randy just shared in the chat that it definitely ties in with the land grant mission. Absolutely it does. This idea that by placing higher ed campuses around the country, we really kind of stir up a lot of good things to happen. That's probably a perversion or way too short version of what that land grant mission is, but I completely agree. So big vision elements, we're working under a strategic plan that wraps up in 2018, and these were the things that were kind of the top headers of it. So we're looking at how do we elevate the impact of civic engagement as a field by building partnerships across the state and promoting alignment. How would we help solve critical issues that we're facing our member institutions and their host communities by catalyzing, promoting, and amplifying civic engagement innovation? So looking for ways that we could do more with what we had. And then maximizing our collective potential as a whole network through better accountability, better collaboration, and better communication. So looking at the group of people that do this work across the state and doing better by them. And our advisory committee is very much kind of the vehicle for a lot of the work that we do. And so we've put a lot of effort into supporting that group, building that group up, creating leadership roles in that group, and this network meeting that we'll have on Monday is the annual meeting of that network group. So those are our vision points. As a state, I think hopefully they're large enough that they are, that folks' local work can fit in at some point to one of them. Thoughts or comments about that vision?
No.
Okay. Somehow okay, so our history is that nationally, so Campus Compact is a national organization. There are over 1,000 colleges and universities nationwide that are part of this. We started in 1985 when presidents from these 3 universities got together and said, we really need to kind of work together as a field to do more to support this public good mission that we have. Currently, there are 31 Campus Compact state offices or regional offices like we've got here in Montana. We began our work in Montana in 1993, and we have 17 current member campuses. We say we're the largest higher ed consortium in the state because we include all institution types from Montana University system to tribal colleges, to private colleges, to community colleges, with this kind of core work of higher ed as our focus, rather than, state schools or private schools or tribal schools. We include anybody who is doing higher ed in Montana and runs and is an accredited institution can be part of Campus Compact. So these are our affiliates in 2018. I think we went over those. Structurally, our top leadership is formed with has 2 levels. So there's an executive board that's very similar to a board of directors. President Cruzado and President Bodner from the 2 flagship campuses are on that, as are people, state leaders from leaders from state government, etc. And then we have a member campus CEO council on which every president, dean, or chancellor of our member institutions sits. So we have kind of two levels there. At our campuses, we have folks who directly support our work, oftentimes staff members who work in service learning or student engagement or TRIO offices or you name it. We're pretty diverse. Folks that care about not only kind of their specific program, but also kind of a larger mission of how do we retain students and really instill a love of learning in people. We often hear that people who we work with wear many hats. You might be the TRIO director, but occasionally you might have to do payroll. That's very common for the folks that we work with. It's higher ed in Montana is very much a all hands on deck affair, I think, a lot of the time. And we get it. And then we have, where I work is what we call the network office, and we work in support of these 17 campuses. We have our executive director, Andrea, who will be at the meeting Monday and at the conference. I'm associate director. We have two program managers who run our AmeriCorps and Vista programs. We have a program specialist who supports the two programs, an office manager, and then two in-office Vista leader and AmeriCorps senior leader roles, folks that are actually doing national service. Went in the wrong direction there. Questions about that structure? So, no. Okay, keep moving. So what we do, this slide has got a lot of animation there. So from our office, a big part of what we do is we track down funding and push it through to our campuses. So dollars that support campus community engagement, that promote service, that build or deepen partnerships between campuses and communities. We do professional development work, in-service training for faculty and staff. How do you kind of come up with a service learning plan that works with how the campus itself works? We don't think there's a one shoe fits all approach to this work, and we are very supportive of institutions approaching this with their own culture, their own knowledge, and their own kind of way of doing things in mind. We coordinate and manage community engagement programs like our AmeriCorps and Vista programs that we place folks, full-time service members around the state with. We assess the impact of engagement. We have an annual student engagement survey where we compile kind of data for the state, institution by institution. We do awards and scholarships for students who are civically engaged. We send information around, and we maintain this network of support. So the advisory committee is kind of a good example of that. That peer group that kind of comes together around civic engagement. At our campus, at the campus level, because we are this network of higher ed institutions, a huge part of what goes on, under the umbrella of Campus Compact work is to put together community partnerships. So thinking about how can we promote service learning that addresses real needs in communities? How do we encourage students to volunteer in their communities? How do we support communities with, meeting needs that they see? All of these things are kind of what Campus Compact is ultimately about. We advocate for community engagement opportunities, connect partners with Vista and AmeriCorps resources, recruit, train, and recognize students who serve. We have a National Newman Civic Fellows program that Every campus can nominate a student for, and that's a national cohort of engaged students that get together regularly, share tools and resources, and then come together once a year for some in-person work. We develop volunteer opportunities. Our staff at local campuses do this, utilize service learning and other kind of community engaged teaching tools. It's important to note we're not a hierarchical organization. We don't have a, kind of command structure where our network office tells campuses, you got to do this because you're part of Campus Compact. We know that that is not a sustainable way to do business in Montana. We very much look to support and provide resources and motivation for these things, but our campuses drive this movement, and we're very careful about that relationship. So some of the programs and initiatives that we've got, like I said, we do professional development, on-campus trainings. We do webinars and conferences like the one next week. We do student and faculty awards, like our Civic Engagement Scholarship, Youth Serve Montana Scholarship for incoming freshmen, the Newman Civic Fellows, the Ehrlich Engaged Faculty Award, Montana Athletes in Service. We do the 2 AmeriCorps and Vista National Service Programs, collect data, and convene this Campus Compact Advisory Committee on a monthly basis and in person once a year. Questions about any of that at this point?
I don't have any.
Okay. So how do we use these resources? That question is meant to be for campuses. How do we access kind of this stuff that Campus Compact has and that the network office can kind of send out? So I put it into kind of 4 buckets here. Kind of the lowest hanging fruit, I would say, are the student awards, fellowships, and scholarships. So the Newman Civic Fellows is an annual nomination process that just needs to come from a campus president. And if the campus says this is our student, that will be the student. They're not, we assume there will be a vetting process at the local level, and it's not an application, it is a send this person up the chain deal. And that deadline actually just passed for Newman Civic Fellows. We put these things out through the listserv and our various newsletters as well. Civic Engagement and Youth Serve scholarships. So the Civic Engagement Scholarship is for current college students, and we award 6 of these $1,000 scholarships every fall and take nominations. We award them in kind of the 3 institution types: tribal and 2-year, 4-year, and then flagship university. So we're not concentrating all of the scholarships on one particular institution type. And then the Youth Serve Montana scholarships are for incoming college freshmen, so graduating high school seniors who will come to compact institutions, apply for these. And we just passed that deadline as well. And we do 100 of these statewide. And so if you know of high school counselors, they're kind of some of the greatest conduit for these Youth Serve scholarships. And then our kind of final award is the Montana Athletes in Service Award. We've had some great participation from Fort Peck Community College and MSU on Athletes in Service, where we really kind of shine a spotlight on the great work that college student athletes do in Montana, community work that they do, I should say. And we award them at the Brawl of the Wild, either in Bozeman or Missoula every November, on the field during during that game, so that we draw attention to college students and service. So those are the awards, fellowships, and scholarships. Training and development. Our executive director, Andrea, travels the state and puts together in-service training for faculty. She is essentially always kind of taking requests, and will schedule with folks so if you hear of, we need to do we've got an in-service opportunity coming up and we want to talk about service learning, you can email me or Andrea and we can get that lined up. Community partnership and college access work. We host an AmeriCorps program that works heavily on college access, supports the work of TRIO programs and enrollment offices or admissions offices on campuses, really heavily focused on first generation and low income students, support things like FAFSA nights, college applications, norming the idea of going to post-secondary education, whether it's an apprenticeship or a certificate program, a degree program. We just know that the trends in employment really say we have to help higher education reach more Montanans. So that program supports that. And our VISTA program is an anti-poverty program, and members do capacity building work to start up new partnerships, new organizations, new programs that in some way address a poverty problem. So that's a pretty broad, I guess, definition of things that fit under that. We've seen Vistas do well in Poplar. They helped set up the Bridge program to encourage more students to come directly into higher education and kind of make that link. It's a great example of what Vistas can help do. And then finally, tracking impact. We really have set a goal as a state to be able to kind of wrap our hands and our minds better around, what kind of the impact is of student service. So we have some tools for campuses to track how students volunteer and engage in community, and that allows us both to provide an easy tool for campuses to use and to roll up data so that we can talk about what goes on in Montana broadly. So those are some of our immediate resources. So if you see anything on there that kind of strikes your fancy, or if you think it would be a good fit for a colleague who is doing work in any of these areas, please don't hesitate at all to let us know. But those are kind of the big things we offer. Questions or thoughts at this point?
I have a question.
Yeah.
When AmeriCorps is on my campus, as they are now, and they support the work of TRIO, who is the conduit for that between myself and the AmeriCorps?
Well, I believe Elijah applied.
Okay.
Structurally it works that there's a full-time person, and struggling to remember that leader's name, but she just started recently. Sam?
Jeff Seacrest.
Jeff Seacrest. Exactly. Yeah, so she's a full-time AmeriCorps leader.
Okay.
And I think great with your deep knowledge of college access and the college to kind of sit down with her and make sure that work is kind of in alignment with what TRIO is doing, and supporting kind of the work that the campus is putting forth is a great thing to do.
Okay. I know we all get busy and everybody has a mission or vision every day, and sometimes we're really doing a lot of one-to-one work with our students. helping with their needs, that sometimes there's that little conduit piece that slips away.
Yeah.
And time, as soon as it's like the first day of school, no different than a K-12 system, you're just hit the ground running with students.
Nose to the grindstone.
Right. Everybody's out doing what they're supposed to be doing. And you just have to make the time, take a breath, step back and say, this is a priority, I guess, right now, to make sure, take the time. I don't know about you, but you can get caught, not you, but it's rhetorical, we can get caught up in meetings.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, well, that really answers my question, though.
Great.
It's not hierarchical, but in my world here, sometimes it is. So.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we're certainly, if we grant funding to somebody, that will come with some expectations. But I think, campuses have to ask and make a case for, like, how the dollars are going to get used so that they line up with the program. But we don't dictate how campuses make use of this stuff, and we want to make sure that it lines up well with what you're already working on.
Right.
That it's not sort of added on. But so I would definitely, encourage you to sit down and get a sense, maybe with Elijah and Jess, and say, like, how do we sort of amplify what the TRIO programs are working on as well. And link them up with some of the great tools and resources I'm sure that your office has.
Right.
As well.
Yeah, they're just right upstairs. They're always on the move, so I know they're busy.
Yeah, that's good. So I'm trying to keep it short here today. That is essentially it. I didn't want to bog you down with a ton of detail, but still wanted just to kind of walk through the basics of what the organization is about. You all have my email contact, and that's my direct phone line there. And then Andrea is below there as well. And then that's our website.
Yes, I took a nice look at your 16-17 impact report. So,
oh, great.
So very nice visuals here. So I have a good gist of how this all flows. So that's good.
Awesome.
Appreciate that.
Okay. Randy, any questions or thing that you wish I had covered? Or are you feeling like you got it? All right. Well, we are.
One question.
Yeah.
I don't believe the questionnaire applies to us, or does it? No, that was last year's.
The one about student engagement?
Well, there is a question. It says, fill this questionnaire out. It's on one of these. You want that questionnaire?
Oh, that link to that Google Doc in the email that I sent you?
I'm sure.
Yeah, if you have time, I mean, we're trying to, like, really make sure that the time on Monday is, meets people's needs, and that we're just trying to sort of start the thinking earlier.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you both for making time for this. I look forward to meeting you in person, Randy, on Monday, and seeing you again, Suzanne. It's been a while.
Okay. Yes.
So take care, have a good weekend, and we'll see you in Bozeman.
Again, thank you for all the arrangements, and I'll see you then. I appreciate that. I'm coming to eat at the Fork and Spoon, I think it's called.
Okay, great. Yeah, we'll see you there. I will put you on the RSVP list.
Thank you.
Okay, take care. Yep, bye-bye.